This week, I find myself here, amongst some very rocky mountains, and this is the half-true story of Banff. The town of Banff gets its name from the historic town of Banff in Scotland. The Scottish Banff is of course famous for once lending its name to a town in Canada. And it is here, on this very spot, that the story of Banff begins. When a group of European settlers first discovered these hot springs more than 20 years ago. One of them looked at this rocky pool filled with hot water emitting sulfurous gases and teeming with a unique species of snail and thought, I bet people would pay money to have a swim in that. Its remote, hard to reach location, its nebulous claims of healing and transformation, coupled with the prospect of seeing a bit of Victorian ankle, gained this place a loyal following of hardcore adventurers. People would flock here in droves to take that perfect portrait for the gram. These springs were the Victorian Burning Man. This journey wasn't for the faint of heart. In the early days, accommodation was very hard to come by. Visitors used to have to huddle together for warmth under these trees. If you could afford it, you could rent a small tent for the price of 2 pigs per day. Banff's reputation as a tourist resort wouldn't be cemented until the second great discovery in this region. This building behind me, the Banff Springs Hotel, it astonished the locals. How no one had realized that there is a fully functioning 5-star hotel mere kilometers away from the main town site confounded even the best minds of the town. We have one man to thank for the discovery of the hotel, a nudist hiker who was walking this very trail on an unclothed ramble. He was set upon by an amorous bear and took shelter in the newly discovered hotel, where he sat among one of the many well-appointed bars, and he drank martinis until the bear had calmed down a bit. And it is this man, Mr. Fairmont, after whom the hotel is named. The history of Banff in the early 20th century is rather boring. It isn't until we get to 1914 that things spice up again. The outbreak of global war. Towns all across Canada gear up for the war effort. Some make munitions, others make tanks and aircraft. Banff gallantly builds an internment camp, fills it with Ukrainian immigrants, and uses them as forced labor to build hiking trails and golf courses. It is this critical addition to the war effort that is thought to have shortened the war on the Western Front by almost a year. And I'm sure it was of great solace to the brave Canadian soldiers who fought on the battlefields of Ypres that when they returned home, they could come to this beautiful, pristine wilderness and hit a small ball over a cultivated lawn that had been put there by people against their will. Banff National Park is famous the world over for its wildlife, from deer to moose to elk to even an amorous bear. But of course, its most famous resident is the Australian, currently seen frolicking in the meadow behind me. Once considered to be an invasive species, they are now a key part of the Bow Valley ecology. A migratory animal, they spend their winters in the ski hills, attempting to copulate as much as possible, and in the springtime they return to the valley floor to forage for food in the hospitality industry. Even amongst a global pandemic, the Australian has remained relentlessly chipper about this year's prospects. I spoke to one and he said, "Yeah, nah, no worries, mate." And then he called me a stupid pommy drongo and scuttled into the underbrush on his longboard. My time here in Banff is drawing to a close. I would love to stay here longer, but I didn't buy a park pass, and I'm pretty sure I'm being followed.